Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of President Trump's most ardent supporters in Congress. But the GOP firebrand has been critical of the strikes he ordered against Iran over the weekend. Team Trump insists those strikes were necessary to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons, but MTG staunchly opposes the intervention.
She took to X shortly after the attacks, posting, quote, "Trump's MAGA agenda included these key promises: no more foreign wars, no more regime change, world peace, and this is what the people voted for." Only 6 months in, and we're back into foreign wars, regime change, and World War III. Joining us now to elaborate is Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. I am so pleased to welcome you back to Rising. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me on.
So I, like you, am a critic of interventionism and have cheered at times when President Trump seemed inclined to steer the Republican Party away from that path that it's taken in the past. We're having now, I think, an interesting discussion. I wouldn't call it a civil war. I think it's healthy in Republican conservative circles to have debate and disagreement. But there has been a lot of disagreement on this subject. What are your thoughts about where we are now with Iran and Israel in the Middle East?
Thank you so much for asking me that. And I totally agree with you. I think all types of discussions are healthy among Republicans as well as across the aisle, Republicans and Democrats. We campaigned on no more foreign wars, and that is extremely important to Americans. And that's not only for Republican voters, that's Democrat voters as well. And it's also generational. I'm 51 years old. I'm Generation X. The generations on down from me, millennials, down to my children's generation, Gen Z, my kids are 22, 25, and 27. It's very important to these younger generations that America focuses on our own problems, and we have many of them. And most importantly, making life affordable. And that's what matters to my children's generation. And because I'm their mom, that is what is most important to me. And you know, we are seeing an argument that has been happening ever since President Trump ordered these strikes on Iran. And I fully support President Trump. Of course, I did not see the classified information that he saw, and I believe he made the best decision with the information that he had. And I am also extremely pleased that he called for a ceasefire and said it's time for peace. However, I think that what happened over the past week truly showed that Americans are very serious about no more foreign wars. And I know that because of the incredible amount of phone calls I have had come into my office. And I always track the calls coming into my office. I think whatever people are saying is extremely important, especially the calls from my district. And the calls coming into my office came from all types of political backgrounds. And they were thanking me. Many Democrats have been calling my office and thanking me for taking a strong stance on this, as well as many, many Republicans, especially Generation X, millennials, and Gen Z. And I think that is such a significant thing to pay attention to, that it is there is a generational divide. But here's how I see it. We have $37 trillion in debt. Inflation has gotten so high that my kids' generation doesn't know if they're ever going to be able to buy a house. They can hardly afford rent. Credit cards are maxed out, and many of them are living paycheck to paycheck. That is if they have a paycheck. And the future does not look bright for them. And it's elected leaders. It is our responsibility to fix those problems. And that's what people care about. Nowhere is anyone walking around all day long going, gee, what is Iran doing? No, they're literally not even thinking that. They're looking at gas prices. They're paying attention to their credit card bills and trying to figure out if they can afford tickets to that concert that they want to go to, or maybe if they can go on a fun vacation with their friends this summer. Right. They're looking at the things that impact their lives, and I think that's what's most important.
Congresswoman, I do take the point that your position on Iran has actually received a lot of sympathy, even from people who, frankly, would disagree with you pretty strongly on lots of other issues. But let me sort of put the point of view that more hawkish Republicans put, which is this idea that, look, the United States does have a legitimate interest in trying to increase peace and security in the Middle East. Iran's uranium program is a danger to that. We carried out the strikes. We don't seem to have got sucked into a longer war, and therefore, your position, your critics say, was wrong. What would you say in response to that critique?
I would say we can look in every single corner of the world and find an enemy that is a threat to America. North Korea, for example, they have nuclear weapons. It's reported today that Pakistan is working to develop an intercontinental ballistic missile that can reach the United States, and they have nuclear weapons. China has nuclear weapons. Russia has nuclear weapons. And most importantly, the biggest threat to us as Americans is here on our homeland, because of all the people that have come across our border, especially the past 4 years. So we're under threat from many different directions. I think here's what we really have to focus on, though. The world will respect America when we try to fix our own problems and pay attention to our own people. And I believe that is peace through strength. When you're a strong nation and you have very little debt, when your people are successful and healthy and happy, these are the things that make you a strong nation and earn the respect from other nations all around the world. And I look forward to seeing great trade deals made with many countries all over the world. I'm a business owner. I'm in the construction industry. And there's one thing I know about my industry is we cannot be successful and build more houses and build more commercial buildings if we aren't able to buy supplies at a cheap price, and if we're not able to have a market and an economy that makes building successful and provides a lot of buyers. So we need to see inflation come down. We need to see great trade deals. We need to see interest rates come down. These are the things that really tell our enemies, look out for America, because America is doing very well. And that's the approach that I want to see. And I think that's the approach that served the American people best. And I don't think we would have to worry about many enemies taking us out.
I certainly agree with that. The other aspect of this conflict I wanted to ask you about is the role of Congress, because from my point of view, it'd be one thing at least to have a debate and a discussion in the halls of Congress about whether attacking Iran was a good idea. That did take place under George W. Bush with the Iraq War. It was voted on in Congress, and we were later able to hold accountable Republicans and Democrats when the decision to do that no longer looked so good in retrospect. Here, it's not that I have a specific concern with Trump. It's the office of the presidency having unilateral war-making abilities when, according to the Constitution, I think that should be the role of Congress. Do you have those concerns?
Well, I think, of course, we must always follow the Constitution. However, there's a double standard that would apply there. If we forced President Trump to live under a vote from Congress, that's something that wasn't forced on President Obama, and it wasn't forced on President Biden when he sent billions of dollars in weapons and guidance over to Ukraine after the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. The president is acting under his authority and the law. So he hasn't broken any laws and he hasn't gone against the Constitution. But I do think I'm looking forward to Congress gets a classified briefing on Friday. I think that's extremely important. We have to go back to our districts and be able to talk about this. So I look forward to that. But I think I will say again, I support President Trump, and the most thing I support him for is something that no other president in the past more than 20 years did, is he stopped this immediately. He said it's time for a ceasefire and it's time for peace. And I really do give him a lot of credit for that.
Congresswoman, we just have to fit in one other question before we let you go. Yesterday morning, which is of course the morning after Zoran Mamdani's win in New York, you did tweet a photo or an image of the Statue of Liberty in a burqa, and you added the caption or comment, "This hits hard." What did you mean by that?
Well, I'm an American woman, and I have all the freedoms in the world to never have to bow to a religion that would force me to cover my body up and only see my eyes and my fingertips. And that is a major threat for all American women. And I think that's something that hits hard for all women.
But what's a major threat to American women? Was it in reference to Mamdani's win?
Pardon, I'm sorry.
What were you tweeting it in reference to? When you say it's a threat to American women,
That's a Muslim takeover or possibly Sharia law. That is a great threat to every single American woman. And I think that's something all women should never want or allow to happen in America. And it's important to talk about those things.
But it's up to the voters of New York City to elect whoever they wish to elect, whether that person is Muslim or Christian or Jewish or anything else. So what is the evidence?
Well, of course, voters have the right to elect that, and I'll maintain my right to say that I think Sharia law and women being forced to wear burqas is the greatest threat to our freedoms as American women.
Right, but are you opposed to Muslims holding elected office?
I am 100% opposed to Sharia law in America. 100% unapologetically opposed to Sharia law in America.
Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, we so appreciate you joining with us. Fascinating discussion. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And we've got a lot more to talk about on Rising right after this.